Hi, I'm Carley of Gnarly Carley Gaming, and today I'm going to talk about a game that is currently crowdfunding on Kickstarter. Today I'm going to talk about The Old King's Crown. Normally I do these couch conversations and little Kickstarter previews alone, but today I'm also going to be joined by my friend Mackenzie, who's here with me. So I'm just gonna scoot over and introduce more Cozy to the couch.
I'm just gonna join.
Alright, you can have this. We can both have
Can
this.
I just hold it?
Yeah. We're both purple players.
I
But
steal.
hello, this is Mackenzie, and we're going to be talking about The Old King's Crown. So there's a lot going on in this game, but the general gist of it is that the Old King is dead and we're all vying for a throne. We play as asymmetrical factions, up to 4 players can do so, and essentially largely through clashes that will happen in the game. And through other special effects and abilities, players are going to earn influence, little tokens that are just influence tokens. If they amass 15, they typically win, except in the case of a 2-player game where it's 20 to win. And so that's the large overview and goal of it. Do you want to talk about how a round is played through?
Yeah, so in a round, you're going to play through 4 different seasons. You're going to start off in spring. So in spring, you're going to place your heralds, which each player has a herald, and they'll get returned to you at the end of the round. That's important because you also have, what are they called?
The supporters?
The supporters, I think.
Yeah.
They do not get returned to you, which is an important part of the game. So you're going to place your heralds, and you're going to do that in player order. And then you can do your different abilities that can come from taking cards from the Great Road or different player abilities.
Yeah, so each player, like I said, it's highly asymmetric. So each player board has like baked in different abilities that can trigger during the different seasons of play. So every round is a full year, and you like knock out seasons. And so some of them will say like a spring action or a summer action. So there's a variety of spring abilities, and so not all of and every player has like some different ones, and you can, like you said, there's Great Road cards where you can basically acquire more throughout the game. Yeah. So that's kind of what spring is about. It feels like a nothing when you start the game, but it usually builds up to be something once you have like that strategy flowing.
Exactly. So for example, one that I had was I could look at the top 3 cards of my deck and rearrange them in any way that I wanted to. So they're smaller abilities in spring. And then you get into summer, and this is where you're going to place your cards in the different regions.
Yeah, the whole board is composed of essentially 3 regions with 6 different locations, and every round players will all play a card into each of them, and this is kind of the core of the game. We all have a deck that we're managing, and a lot of those cards have special abilities, but also primarily have a strength value, and if you have the highest strength, very easy, add it up, then you can win a region and basically trigger one of the special abilities. Some of them will do things like get you influence, some of them will help you unlock more and more things. So you kind of have this, like, you're trying to build up, but it's not just like to influence. A lot of times you're also trying to like build your deck and manage and do other things, and asymmetry pushes people to do that a little differently.
Very, very important. In player order, you can also do summer abilities that are on your player board, which could mean taking 2 strength or switching 2 cards. Switching 2 cards that are played in different areas. I think each player board has that ability.
Yeah.
Where you can switch 2 cards that a different player
the 2 that we most recently did do.
Yes.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of manipulation that can occur. And so what that does is essentially the core of the game, because that autumn season really is the core where you resolve these regions and have the chance to earn power. It's basically that year what you're able to accomplish. So I guess we can talk about autumn as its like own entity, which essentially summer, what people do is they'll play cards. They'll kind of commit to the bit in terms of what they want to do where. Between spring, where you're kind of placing your herald, laying like a sort of suggestive claim to where you want, because if you score, like if you win a clash where your herald is, you also get like a little kickback where you can get an extra influence, and potentially if someone else's herald is there, steal from them. So there's a lot of like teasers of like what people are going to do, how they're bluffing, what they're going to try to accomplish.
It's a tentative, hey, I want this.
And then people can use other abilities to say, hey, maybe I want this. And that could be genuine, but that can also be a little misleading. And then summer, you lay out those cards, just 1 card per. And then autumn is the big reveal. What's cool about this is a lot of those abilities happen in turn order, which is from whoever has the most influence at that point in time to the least. And so the person who's the least always gets to decide the order that all the regions resolve. I was just
about to go into that. That's a key part of it, because the person in first is the person that has the most influence. The person that has the least influence at the start of the round is the person that gets to pick in which way the regions get resolved, which is key when you're resolving the abilities of each card.
Yeah, because a lot of cards, like I said, have all of those keywords that can trigger various effects. And so if you want that control over how these things will resolve, being able to determine that order can be really essential in some ways, especially if there's big things that you gain from it. And a lot of that has to do with the asymmetry of different factions and what you're trying to pull off. I think the faction that you played most recently, it's called The Gathering, I think, actually. The purple one.
It might be, yeah.
Was really interesting in terms of like what they hope to accomplish.
So I was trying to pull off like a 3-way combo. I was last because she was destroying me. She had like 6 influence and I had none. She had just stolen 2 from me. And I was trying to lose everywhere. Because if I lost everywhere, I was going to be able... My card had the ability on it to where I was going to be able to activate my Site of Power, which I don't think we've talked about.
No.
That's as like... It's one of the region powers, which we also have not talked about yet, where you can put a quest card in the top to activate. And that's a region power, and I was going to be able to do it without having to activate a region, which is a big part of it.
Yeah, so... To clarify what all that happened. So essentially, she had a faction that more so wanted to lose situations. And so having her have the control over the resolve, while also, because her asymmetric ability kind of pushed her to like play like a losing long game versus like those quick wins, it just interacted differently with, and usually beneficially towards me, who might be trying to win something, but that could actually hurt me in the end, depending on what she unlocked. And all of those unlocking bits are kind of diving into the depths of it. So we will unpack that. But essentially, when you win an ability, or a region, for instance, and we have those clashes in each of the regions, and I'll showcase a region on the screen, you can choose one of the locations in that region to score their ability. And that could be something as simple as gaining points, but often it also lets you do other things. And so there's some that let you, for instance, play a card to a court, and based on your authority, you'll get like a kickback during springtime of extra influence. So whoever's control of the court is basically getting that kickback at the beginning of the year. So I tried to do that last time we played a little bit. That's the top. There's this like big top area that just has these kind of sites of power and a court, which just gives a little more intrigue to the game and ways that you can build yourself more than just be like, I won, so I scored. Sites of power are all unique to players.
Yep.
So you had one that was unique to you, and you were trying to unlock this extra ability. So to do so, you have to kind of win a location, usually, that the wilderness specifically lets you send some of your cards on a quest. So you lose those cards, but those cards build up, and eventually you'll be able to kind of claim usually a better card for yourself. And so she essentially had an ability that if she lost all of the regions would kind of allow her to access that card in an easier way.
So what my faction was doing was it was allowing me to use the regions without winning. And she was just not letting me lose.
Well, and that's part of what I think is cool about like the growth of the game is the more you learn and you pay attention to it, you can learn how other things operate. And so if you know a player wants to lose a little bit, I would try to win 2 and then make sure I could try to throw one of them. And so that would always be like my goal of it. Because like I could have that short-term influence boost, but I knew the power that it would give her would be really strong. And so in a larger player counts, that's much harder to like pay attention to and do, because there's going to be too many of us competing that we can't all be like, all right, like you win this one and I'll win this one. So like that faction could fly under the radar in a really dangerous way.
I don't just have to lose to her. Yeah. I could just lose to a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
Instead of just you.
Mm-hmm. So, but that doesn't have necessarily a specific phase. That's just at the end of like autumn when you're resolving all of these things. People will choose what abilities they want to use. And so that's why little tactics that exist, like planning your own cards that are coming up, because maybe you want those high cards, maybe you want the low cards, so you lose. Or there's even like little abilities and tactics that you can get that let you like peek another person's hand can go like a really long way. Because I feel like in most card games, you're like, oh, I've seen what you can do, but now you can still counter me and I can't do much about it. Trying to meta where they put things or be like, okay, they have only these options. What will they put where and what can I do to like instigate or manipulate it it's a cool little dance. And that's kind of where the bluffing comes in. I know bluffing's talked about in this game, but it's not like a huge bluff game. If you're not like a lying human being, that's not what this game is about. It's more like it's a dance of sorts.
Yeah. And I feel like the bluffing really comes in with, oh, I'm taking this region this time.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind, I have a 2 there. I'm glad you didn't try.
Yeah, that herald is kind of like your little leader figure. And like the first bit of the game is truly just like putting it out somewhere, being like, I'll score extra if I win here, and that's definitely what I'm doing. And a lot of times it is, but that can both make people give up really easily, but it also can push them to mess with you in that space, which can be a fun little, like a little cheeky bit.
Well, that's why I put, the region that she tried not to win to get me to lose in, that's why I put my herald, because I wanted her to think I was going to try to win so that she would put a high card there, because that was the only one that and she still didn't want me to win it, or wanted me to win in that one, and put a 0, and it's fine.
Love you. But yeah, so that's kind of the general arc of the game, and notably winter, we have those kingdom cards, and I think that's like the last real bit we probably should definitely talk about, is essentially when you're playing cards in summer, you also optionally can play one down to like journey to these like kingdom cards.
The road cards.
The kingdom road cards.
Oh.
It's okay. We both got this. And so those also resolve and flip up, and if you have a numerical value, whoever has the highest just gets to pick first. And these are special abilities you can unlock that have some cool effects, but also add like a lot of different like options in terms of strategy to the game.
They definitely give you a bunch of different abilities that you can have. So yours was important because it took away the attrition. Yeah,
so some of them give you a boost to yourself, some of them let you manipulate other people. One of them, like for instance, like looking at their deck or manipulating things, manipulating your own deck. I had one that, a cool part of the game, there's all these like little bits that add a lot of depth to it, is when you burn through your card deck, there are ways to get rid of cards, which is nice because maybe you have higher value cards because you want to, or maybe because you have lower value cards when you want to. But if you ever reach the end of your deck, you do reshuffle, just akin to like most card games. But when you do that, you have attrition, which is basically your max hand size goes down, so you're drawing less and less cards every turn. This is going to limit your options over time pretty severely. So I was able to get a Kingdom Road card that basically meant that I don't take attrition at all. Like, I don't have that, but I had to give a player an influence every single round. So there's mine had a little bit of a push and pull, but it was worth it to me because it also boosted my card side up. So I had so many options, and I wasn't taking a hit, and I was winning a lot more. So it was definitely worth giving up like an influence around, even in a lower player count.
Yeah.
So that's a cool little bit just because it builds differently, and you can steal those abilities.
Yes, you can.
Do you want to talk about how that works?
So a big thing about going in the bottom is you think, hey, I can just put a low card here and I can still steal one of those, right? I can still get an ability because it doesn't matter. Going first is what matters, right? So I'm going to put a 2 here. She might put an 8. So I can still get a card with my 2. When you do take a card from the Kingdom Road, you're going to use that card to slot it into your board.
It's basically like kind of the journeyman. I think of it as like protecting that card. Yes. It's
That's
that like
really good way to explain
it's the keeper of the ability. So they're standing guard of you having that card. So you don't get that card in your hand. So you're like, I don't want to give up a high value card. The cards typically they range from like 0 to like 15-esque on like a high card for special abilities. But most of them around 7. So I'm like, I don't want to put like an 8 card or an 8 to 10 or something like that there. But it's a risk if you don't.
Yes. So like you said, think of it as like protecting that card. So if I put a 2 there, later on, if Carley decides to put an 8 down there, she can say, so there's 2 other abilities that you can use with the cards that you put in the Great Road. You can choose to replace a protection card that you already have on one of your other Kingdom Road cards on your board. So I could replace my 2 with, say, a 3 or a 4, or up to 15 that I...
Whatever card you have in your hand that you can use,
Or I can use that higher number, or Carly could use her higher number. She could use her 8 that she played down there to steal my Kingdom Road card from my board.
So essentially, if the one that you have serving as protector is lower than a card that someone plays in a later round. So this would be a different phase. Or it could be afterwards because, oh no, it wouldn't be afterwards because it always triggers from high to low. Yes. So if she got a card one round with a level 4, and then the next round I played an 8 in the Great Road, I can evaluate when it's my turn if I want any of the cards that come up that round, or I can take a card from anyone who has a lower value protecting it. So essentially their card would leave, I would get the ability, and it would slot into mine. And so you have, that's why the replacement comes into play, because if you are able to snag something with a low value, but you're like, oh no, this is very important to me, you can also play a card and replace it yourself. And so yeah, it builds you up, cool different abilities, makes even playing the same faction very different. But it is like, there is that like dance of like, what cards do I want in my hand, and how much of a, like, how much fear do I want to have in my body for this, like, to keep it.
Kingdom Road card.
And, but that's nice. And because factions play a little differently, you can also like predict which ones people are going to take.
Yes.
So I don't always need to place a high value if I know that like this works really well for me, but it's not going to, like, no one's going to try that hard to keep it themselves. So I'm like, sure, like, you take it, I'll take it from you later. Like, and I like that because it's not a game of just like messing with people. You can only slot 2 of those cards on your board. So it's not a game of like, well, this would be great for Kenzie and I'm going to take it every time. It's more of like how badly do I want to take that from you? Like, is that worth an action and maybe another card that could just boost me more? So it doesn't become, I don't know, like, I don't like games that always push you to do something just horrible to other people that doesn't help yourself. I'd rather like focus on mine and if that works in tandem, then sure. But like, so yeah. So that's the Kingdom Road, and that's kind of like the end of the year. Before you start up, you draw up to your hand size, attrition if needed, and then keep going until at the end of the year is when you check to see if someone's won, though. So it's not just like, I have a fun ability and I held court and I get 1 influence and I've won now. You have to like survive till the end of the round, and then whoever has the most at that point wins. So simple in a lot of ways, but like elegant and deep in a bunch of others.
And it's just beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful game.
Yeah, the art is stunning. I mean, they spent a lot of time on the art and development. I love that each faction has a very different feel, while all being just like ethereally beautiful, really. So I'll just flash some artwork. I don't know, it's pretty, but I'm very excited. Yeah, so it's launching now, and I guess who do you think this game would be best for? Like best suited for?
I think this is better for you. So I think
I'll give my thoughts too. I'm just curious what you think.
So I think this is more for people who definitely like asymmetry. I'm not a big asymmetry person.
You know I am.
I know you are. I'm not a big asymmetry person. I like being on the same playing field. I like that because I can feel very targeted sometimes, especially when it comes to like, if I don't have the same like benefits as people, sometimes it's like, oh, you only got that because you had a thing. I don't like, asymmetry is not my thing. I don't do good with asymmetry.
But
your turn.
I
do. It's definitely very good for new gamers, because it's not a hard game.
Yeah, the flow of it, you really can guide people through. Like if like when you're teaching this game, I can be like, hey, this first round, you could even do like a soft launch first round where you just like wind it back afterwards and reset the game, where you're like, let's just figure out how this plays, you'll see how it resolves, and then we'll do it again, which is really nice because it really is just like, okay, we're all going to place these leaders here, you're going to get a little boost. We're all just trying to get like these little like coins and like to get influence. So the objective is plain and the depth is there, but there's a lot of wiggle room for people to figure out ways to get there. And so they can just, like, a lot of the game is just, like, you can try something, and then you get to be like, ooh, but I could take this pathway.
Yes.
And now I have the option to, so you're like, I've won a region, okay, like, I've scored the best, and now there's different abilities that I can trigger, and one of them lets me get an ongoing boost if I go this direction. So, like, let's try that. And then, so over time, this game builds.
It does, 100%.
And so I think, like, gamers, but it can be a gamer's game in the sense that, like, some people will just get that much quicker. Like, you'll explain it, you know your group. But it can be one, like, I feel like if I found this when I first started gaming, I would have been like, yes. Because there would have just been so many directions. I would want to try all the factions and all of those things. And I still feel that way. Like, it feels much more accessible, I think, to us now. But I feel like your point, especially in terms of, like, the asymmetry and those kind of things, you are fighting people, and you're trying to pull things off, and sometimes that doesn't go your way. And so, like, you know your game group, you know yourself. If that doesn't spark joy, then that might not be for you. It can be very, like, Magic-esque in a way. Like, people have compared it to, like, people who like Root and people who like Magic. It's that asymmetric card game, but like highly asymmetric. And so if those kind of things are really fun for you to spin through and try to figure out, it has been, like, developed for, like, 5 years for, like, a pretty good balance, especially at the 4 players, because you have all of those different interactions. But you know your group, so I would say, yeah, if you aren't into the highly combative, if you aren't into things that can swing, like, wildly out of your favor, I think there's a difference between, oh, someone took, like, the resource space I wanted versus, like, that round wrecked my hopes and dreams. And this round, like, this can have a bit of that, like, feel, but there's a lot there to explore, which is exciting to me.
And I think that's good for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, just having the difference in every time you play and being able to play the different factions is good for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Maybe not me, but it is good for a lot of people. Yeah. And it's so easy to play. Yeah. Like, and they have a very good reference that gives you every single thing that's on every card for every single faction. And that might seem
unnecessary based on how much we delved into it, but there's, like, 15 different types of things that can interact together, and the cards themselves are very plain in terms of how they use keywords to describe them. So like, and so having that reference so you remember what those things do is super helpful, especially as you're learning it. But it's one of those things like Magic that as people get better, they're just gonna, like, fire and go. And I think that's what I'm, like, excited to hit in terms of this, is, like, a group of people who can really, like, fire off and go and have all those, like, tactics in the back of their mind, and being able to, like, decide when best to trigger those things. All of that, like, there's a lot of, it's a good game. It's really, really lovely. And so, yeah, but that is kind of an overview of what it's all about. Thank you for joining me for this one.
This is really fun.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this one, but while Kenzie's in town, I wanted to do it with a bud. I was like, you could sit here while I chat about it, or you can join me. So I started filming it, and then I was like, why don't you just sit here and do it too? So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions about the Kickstarter at all, you can put them in the comments below, and I will try my best to get back to you all quickly. But otherwise, I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you for the next video.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Bye.